Hello, my wonderful viewers, and welcome to another episode of Betty Adams Overanalyzes. Today we are going to take a look at one of my favorite pet theories from the world of Kaiju number 8. Namely, what happened to Kokoro Shinomiya's mother and Kaiju Defense Force Captain Hikari Shinomiya. However, we are going to take a look at it through two distinct lenses. The lens of art and the lens of words. Because the words of Chapter 68 and the art of Chapter 68 are saying two very different things about the state of Hikari Shinomiya, even though neither addresses it directly at all. According to the official story told by the Defense Force, she's dead. She died from some combination of overuse of her suit and combat injuries from fighting Kaiju number 6, the king of all Kaiju. Her death forced Iso Shinomiya out of his role of doting father and into the role of rigid disciplinarian for their daughter Kokoro Shinomiya. Hikari also inevitably bequeathed her daughter a burden of guilt and near pathological sense of responsibility for her mother's death. Kokoro, the child, failed to protect her mother. Therefore, Kokoro, the Kaiju Defense Force officer, is not going to let a single comrade of hers die on the battlefield. In a way, this inheritance of responsibility is the driving force of the story, because without Kokoro there to rescue them, there was no way that Kafka and Reno would have passed that initial test. So, from nearly the beginning, Hikari's spirit, her actions, her drive, have been invisibly guiding the story. However, we the audience only begin to catch glimpses of this in the mid-30s chapters, and how huge a role Hikari played in building the world of Kaiju number 8 only begin to grow clear well past the 50 chapter mark. And there is clearly more to come as we watch the development of Hikari's relationship with the 4th Division commander, when we find out how she met Iso and how their romance progressed. There's more coming about her past, to be sure, but for now, she's dead. She died heroically, slaying the king of the Kaiju, so there can be nothing of a future to her story except what is left of her in Kokoro. Right? Well, between chapters 44 and 68, I dedicated a lot of time and emotional attachment to the theory that she wasn't as dead as the Defense Force said she was. And I suppose I'm as susceptible to the sunk cost fallacy as anyone, so take what I'm saying now with that grain of salt. But my theory went like this. We, the audience, didn't see the body. Always a hint that the dead aren't quite gone. We, the audience, hadn't seen a repaired and repartnered weapon number 4. So, what if Kaiju number 8 had absorbed Hikari Shinomiya and used her memories to help shape the generations of Kaiju that appeared between Kaiju number 6 and Kaiju number 8? I even propose that the little guy, the miniature Kaiju that started all of this from Kafka's perspective, might have been a result of a lingering element of Hikari Shinomiya acting on the world. A desire to kill Kaiju, to protect Kokoro, to rejoice at Iso's life and mourn his death. Yes, these are all actions and emotions that a man like Kafka would have experienced naturally, especially as he is a Shonen Jump MC, and they all but live on compassion and combat. But these particularly strong reactions to the Shinomiya specifically could be influences from Hikari lingering in this last wisp of her will that took the form of Little Guy. Then there were all the weird connections between Hikari Shinomiya and Richo Ichikawa. She died slaying number 6, and Reno is the first human to be compatible with Kaiju number 6. Reno was highly compatible in combat style with her daughter, and the heir to number weapon 4 by using freeze rounds, even before he tested out for the numbered weapon 6 and took this compatibility to the next level. All this ties back to Kafka and the little guy through Reno's instant acceptance of Kaiju number 8 as Kafka, and his presence when little guy took over Kafka's body. So, all that to say that I was quite devoted to the theory that Captain Hikari Shinomiya had been absorbed by some primitive form of Kaiju number 9 back after she took out Kaiju number 6, and that her body and her suit were lost, never to be seen again in the chaos. Maybe in the bay, maybe in the mountains. But the theory hinged a lot on the negative evidence of not seeing her body or her suit. So you can imagine that the closing pages of chapter 68 in addition to being a heartstring puller, put quite the damper on my favorite theory, or rather would have the chapter not also given us one massive and blatant and one more subtle and chaotic piece of evidence for the theory. Now, from here on out, I will be getting into spoilers through Chapter 68, so you have been warned. If you don't want to hear any spoilers for Chapter 68 of Kaiju number 8, you can click away now and check out the links below the video to get yourself a copy of Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data, the first book of human absurdity. Monty Python meets Star Trek in the short story collection. Now, what happens in Chapter 68 of Kaiju number 8? The vast majority of the chapter is framed via the introspection of the very much still alive and aware General Director Iso Shinomiya. Here you have proof that the mind and will of a human absorbed by Kaiju number 9, even at his current level of power, understanding, and strength, could last for at least 2 months. This is a massive piece of evidence that had Hikari been absorbed 12 years ago when Kaiju number 9 was weaker and more ignorant, her will, or some part of her, could have survived, could have fought number 9, could have denied him her knowledge for years. Evidence, nay, all but proof of my lingering essence of Hikari theory. But almost all the story is framed by Iso's living torment, sticking out of a 25-page format we have grown used to. Sticking out of the usual 25-page format that we've grown used to is a little blurb at the end of the story, a sidetrack, an adjunct. After Iso closes his eyes and fades away, we focus back on a Defense Force base and 13 levels below the Earth. We see Hikari Shinomiya's battle suit. The, and I quote, battle-tested weapon number 8 that was worn by Hikari Shinomiya and had to be fitted and altered for Hikaru's body. That is the ever-mindful of space and words Matsumoto grabbing the biggest lampshade he can find and slamming it down our head 3 times via the words of a, well, I was going to say reliable source, but Captain Jinrumi was too young to be there, so it's possible that what he's saying isn't true, even if he thinks he's telling the truth. Just possible in the context of the story, but it isn't likely. So, for the most part, a reliable source, as I don't see Jin lying to Iso's daughter, and I don't see Matsumoto playing it in that Jin himself was lied to. Where before, everything pertaining to the face of the weapon in the suit was vague, to the fate of the weapon in the suit was vague, now there's no doubt, no room for the slightest interpretation. This is with 100% certainty the same weapon number 4 that Hikari Shinomiya was wearing the day she went into battle against Kaiju number 6, which seems to mean that they recovered the suit, which heavily implies that the Defense Force recovered her body along with the suit. Her body was logically then studied at a Defense Force medical facility, then either preserved for science or cremated in classic Japanese burial tradition. Either way, this greatly reduces the chance that her body was taken over by Kaiju number 9, and her memories in essence have been having a direct effect on the story. This greatly reduces. See, when I was writing this, I really didn't see how, within the context of the words of the story, that Matsumoto could get around this. Until I started thinking about when Kaiju number 9 was looking for a numbered weapon and a compatible user. He already knew about the numbered weapons. He already knew about compatible users. And number 9 clearly engineered that confrontation so that he wouldn't just steal the weapon, that he would have a weapon not only turned on, not only activated, but warmed up and actively being used by a compatible user. Which suggests that Kaiju number 9 knew that just taking the human or the weapon individually might not have worked. Which does add another layer to this Hikari Shinomiya theory. It might be that in the past, the more primitive form of Kaiju number 9 made the mistake of only taking one or the other. Since we're looking at the suit, if that applies in this situation, perhaps Kaiju number 9, or a more primitive form of Kaiju number 9, absorbed Hikari Shinomiya. That would explain how he knows so much about the Defense Force and their patterns and their training bases. And probably that was the training base that Hikari Shinomiya worked at. Well, he was remarkably ignorant of other things, of the latest technology and stuff, if he was working on a decade-old information. So perhaps number 9, or as I said, a more primitive form of number 9, deliberately absorbed Hikari Shinomiya's body, but made the glaring mistake of leaving the weapon behind, a mistake he regretted once he had fully integrated her memories and stolen her, and which was why he was looking for, that could have explained why he was looking for Director General Iso Shinomiya. She would have thought him the greatest warrior, and that might be influencing his Kaiju number 9's actions. But anyway, just for the words of the situation, it greatly reduces the chance that Hikari Shinomiya was absorbed by Kaiju number 9. I would have said that it completely eliminates, but I can't quite say that, even without that new secondary theory that I thought up while I was writing this. I can't quite say that there's a good chance that Hikari Shinomiya is out there, but I can't say that this revelation, that seeing her combat suit hanging there, ready to be used, eliminates the concept that she's still out there. You see, this is the thing about manga. Like Western comics, it's a visual medium. The story is told it's told more through the art than through the words. Many a good, even a few great graphic novels have been made entirely without words of any sort. The image, the art, tells a story for you. A cat with a paw raised over a fishbowl, a baby utterly focused on a cat's tail and reaching out for it, a contented cat sleeping beside an open bird cage with a feather in its mouth. I'm not sure why my brain is only supplying cat-related examples, but moving on. Manga is a visual story medium, and the visuals of this chapter are in one way at least directly contradicting the strangely threefold repeated words of Captain Narumi that almost put the kibosh on my theory about Hikari Shinomiya not being dead, or not being as dead as we thought she was. How is that? One, the largest kaiju that we saw appearing, the glowing angel, or rather that glowing Valkyrie of a kaiju, we are introduced to at the start of the chapter. Now, let me say here and now that this might very well just be an awesome kaiju designed by Matsumoto that glows because it has energy beam powers. We might very well see this very glowing white kaiju stomp into a city and start leveling skyscrapers in Tokyo at any moment. But there are points that make me feel something is happening with this giant, because as massive as this giant was, there was something familiar, something almost fragile, something almost feminine about it. But this video is getting too long, so I will wrap it up at this point. The words of this story say almost too pointedly that Hikari Shinomiya is dead. And the next video will look at how the art contradicts this, specifically focused on that glowing white kaiju. But what do you think, my wonderful viewers? Is there something more to the glowing white mountain kaiju? Or am I just seeing things? Leave your comments and theories below the video, and peace out, my wonderful viewers. Humans are weird. We took a vote, and humans are weird. I have the data. 2 books in a series of human absurdity. Go check out these short story collections. What will our little green friends think of us when we finally do make it to space? Find out the answer in 2 books of human absurdity. Humans Are Weird, We Took a Vote, and Humans Are Weird, I Have the Data. Available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, and Google Play.